out to the inside.
We were robust, we got our elbows out.
Ronar takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Jarno Watmere is your champion.
Your new season starts right here, right now. Hello everyone and welcome back to PSGL PC F2. It is time for a new era as we enter a landmark season, with it being season 40, and we go into F1 25 as well. In the commentary box, my name is Omi, delighted to be with you here in PSGL once again and for another season. And alongside me, usually I would have Deathlink, but he's travelled off to London. So luckily, we've been able to get a replacement, and the replacement, who is someone you'll know from PCF2 from the seasons that have gone by, it is Mr. Nathan Richards. Hi, Richie.
I am doing very well, Omi. Hello everyone. Every time I say I'm going to take a break this season, I'm just going to focus on something else. I end up coming back one way or another, whether it's F2, F3, or whatever. I'm always back because I just can't get away from the action here of the main tiers on PSGL. And I mean, we've got a stacked grid this season. It's insane. One of the best I've seen. And I've commentated F2 since season 33, so that says a lot. And then the tracks we've got this season are brilliant. Of course, we started off with Austria, and we just have a calendar full of action-packed races, which I can't wait to get into. But before we head our way, I mean, let's have a look at what tracks we're heading to for season 40.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned our season opener. We start today here at Austria. We travel over to Jeddah in a week's time, and then we go over to Spa for round 3 of the season. We have our break week, which takes place straight after our opening 3 rounds, and then we head over to Imola, the home of Formula 1 at Silverstone, and then we go Budapest, Bahrain, to another break week as well on the 28th of September, and then after that we have Texas, Japan, Vegas, Brazil, and Mexico City. That is where we conclude our season, and it's going to be some campaign which gets underway, as we mentioned, here at the Red Bull Ring. But Mexico, an interesting place for a venue. We end with Vegas, Mexico, Richie. It's going to definitely be quite chaotic to see how everything's going to end out there, but this is where we start our season. This is where it is all important to get those early points and to make sure you can get as much as running in right now, because there will be drama, as there usually is in a PSGL season, so you have to be consistent.
Indeed, and qualifying has just got underway, and first on track we have Tony Hietala, who recently joined the Veloci Academy team. A very, very prolific driver in the scene, certainly one of those that will be looking at dev spots over this game cycle and next game cycle. Here in the V-Carb team, his teammate this season will be Luca Rapassa, who should also be eyeing himself up for a dev seat in the near future. So it will be a very interesting lineup, these two. I'm sure they'll score a lot of points, but the one team I want to keep my eye on is the Alpines. They are going to be Ben Shabakony and Piotr Stakler, who are 2 brilliant drivers. Both of them have been in the F1 sim racing / F1 esports before. They have a lot of experience, even here in F2. So I'm very keen to see what they can manage this season. And that was a brilliant opener there from Tony Hietala, a 102.797 Omi. In F3, our pole was a 0.6.
Yeah, absolutely. So a great banker lap to start off for Hietala, the driver who finished 19th last season in the PCF2 Championship. One of the reasons why he ended the season in 19th was because he started in F3, but if you joined us for that season, he absolutely dominated to a point where he got promoted midway through that season. We do get it every single season. There's a couple of drivers who may find themselves getting promoted from F3 all the way up to F2. Hietala was one of them, so he's got a full campaign to try get behind the wheel and try and impress. It's Sabrino who goes to the top of the table for the moment, the driver who was 4th. Jan Halliday was our champion last season. He is, of course, the driver who is here to retain his crown as well, and he's not the only PCF2 champion on the grid. From season 38, we also have Angelo Di Ortenzio as well. So 2 champions looking to try and get another championship in this tier, and then you've got other contenders, Richie, who are going to be trying to deny them that spot.
Yep, certainly. I mean, in the past couple of seasons, it's been one of those where you kind of have 2 or 3 drivers who tend to run away. You have the odd driver who jumps onto the podium and takes a race win. but you tend to have the same typical drivers at the top every time. Whereas I think this season, with the grid we've got, I think we're going to see so many drivers who are fighting at the top. I mean, we've got some of those that are coming over from console back to PC. We've got some of those that have been in F1 previously demoted. We've got F3 drivers promoted. And then, of course, drivers that were in F2 last time out. And they're all going to be fighting hard, all looking to go to the top spot. And I think one thing which also makes this season even more competitive is one thing, and that is the drivers actually like the game compared to the past, what? Well, 23 was all right, but 22 and 24 were interesting. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, and that is a big difference if the drivers are passionate about their racing coming into this season and they actually want to drive the game. Last season it was just get on with it, get it done with type thing, where at the start of the new game cycle we are seeing the drivers enjoy it, and that's the most important thing. That is the positive way that we want to start off this season. And Riccardo Benzoni will be hoping for a positive start to his lap as well, the driver who finished 6th last season in the championship as well, as he brings it up and makes his way down into turn number 3, which is Remus corner, and then you get the DRS open once again. Now that's going to be very interesting in the race. Of course, dirty air is existent on this game, which means it will be harder to follow compared to last game, but this circuit, as we saw in the real life racing just gone by, even in Formula 1 as well, where it can be quite hard to follow, we did see drivers able to still stay close and make overtakes just due to how short the circuit is, and then with that short circuit, you have 3 back-to-back DRS zones, Richie.
Yeah, definitely. The racing is high here. Even when we had dirty air back in the previous games, you always had chaos around this circuit. I mean, last game it was just mental. It was insane around here. It was racing every single corner. But at least on the new game, even with that DRS, you know, the high dirty air, the DRS is still going to produce lots of overtaking, especially up to turn 3, but turn 4 as well will have that opportunity. But if you can go for a decent exit out of turn 4, there's no reason why drivers won't go side by side all the way through up towards turns 8 and 9. But we have got some more lap times being set in this session. We did see Benzoni go up to P2, Shabakonyi jump up into the top 6 there with a 102.865 in the Alpine, and Piotr Stakelet goes to the line, and I think he's just about to start a lap there in the Alpine. And we do see Liam Stevens also heading to the line in his Aston Martin, of course. A couple of days ago, been given a dev spot at the Aston Martin esports team, so a great job by him. Well deserved for Liam Stevens, and moving out the way for another driver there, Omi, and nearly ended up in the barriers.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about Aston Martin, of course, you mentioned Liam Stevens, who got that role earlier on this week, and then you've got on the other side of the garage, you've got Jan Halliday, who we've already discussed as our reigning champion, but he's a driver who's been part of the development role for quite a while now as well. So an interesting dynamic we've got going on there, as we do continue to watch Starchelek make his way through the middle part of the lap into the 3rd sector now, as he is trying to currently find the push. You go down to turn number 9 and then the Red Bull Mobile, but he will not do so at full racing speed. He'll come back into the pit lane, abandon this run, and then go again on a fresh set of tyres. We were just mentioning Jan Halliday, and he is also not at full speed at the moment as he's in the 3rd sector. So our order right now sees Sabrino Benzoni, so Ferrari 1-2, Hitala's in 3rd, and then it's Di Hortensio in 4th, and Nelson Alves is in P5. An interesting top 5 immediately to kickstart our season.
Indeed, and lots of drivers you can see already pushing those limits. We've got, well, that doesn't count for Yanni in my opinion. We've got 6 drivers with their lap time at the moment, and that just proves these drivers are, you know, compared to F3 and F4, they are the next level, and they push that little bit extra more. And of course, on those occasions, there's times where you will run a tad wide, and of course around here, a centimetre wide is a lap time invalidation. So you've got to be so careful with the track limits here, but of course if you want to be at the top, you've got to push hard. So yeah, it's such a difficult track in qualifying, but it's one of those that is always so close because of how short the track is. I mean, we're nearly into the sub 1 minute lap times there. We did see Tony Hirtala jump back up into P2 there with a 102.687, only 20 thousandths back from Sergio Sabrino. So great to see those two up at the top together. Of course, both part of the Veloce Academy team. I believe both of them rather new as well to Veloce Academy. I remember mentioning about Tony earlier, but I believe Sergio has only been there around 2 or 3 weeks after departing from R8G. And here's Jan Halliday to the line, runs wide. That would have been P4, but unfortunately, it's going to be P14 because of that slight mistake heading out of turn 10.
You were mentioning the few centimetres, and there is the perfect example. Leoland pushing on as well as he makes his way through turn number 10, the Red Bull Mobile, and the Red Bull driver comes across the line and he goes into P14 at the moment, a 1 minute 3.244. Cameron Dowd, a very interesting driver when it came to last season as well. He basically made his way through from the PlayStation side, so of course originally he was in PC, he made his way onto PlayStation, he returned back to PC last season in F3, and he wasn't there for most of the season. He came in and was immediately a title contender as well in F3, even though he'd missed most of the season, which I find quite remarkable as well. He missed the opening 4 races. We had a 9-race calendar last season, and he immediately found himself in contention, and he lost that title by 8 points last season. It definitely shows his talent and shows his class. It was a scruffy season across the board, I'd say, in F3 last season, but still, that shows his talent to be able to get in there, immediately be consistent, and already be a title contender, even though he'd missed half the season.
I mean, Cameron's been here, there and everywhere. I mean, I remember back when I commentated on him over in F4, I think it was like season 32. He was then close to a championship in 33. Then he disappeared off to console because he couldn't be bothered to do, you know, he didn't want to strive to esports anymore. He was in R8G, wasn't too happy there, so he went off to console. Then he came back to PC after leaving R8G, and now is in Veloci Academy and wants to go back for esports again. So he's got that determination. You've just got to keep it consistent. And if he carries on with that mindset of I want to get there, I have no doubts he will. He's one of those that I would bet £100 on easily to get into dev seats and esports in the future. So he's just got to keep there and keep consistent with his beliefs. As we do see there, Szymon Lekomski up to the top of the timings. Of course, hasn't been in and around PSGL that recently. Of course, I don't think he was here last season. He was there in season 37. He didn't actually get P2 around here in that season. But of course, part of the McLaren Shadow team. I presume he'll be in E-Series when that begins, well, technically tomorrow, but the actual season begins on the 18th of July, Omi, which I believe you'll be subbing in for a couple of those when me and Corey are away.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll hopefully be seeing me across those as well on a few occasions when the excellent Richie and Corey are unable to make it as well. Corey, of course, also someone who's been helping out a lot over the last few seasons in this tier along with F3. So a deserved promotion, and congratulations to him on joining Richie when it comes to the E-Series seat. As Benzoni, currently the driver in third, that's the lap time he just improved to a few moments ago. So we have Lekomski at the top, as Richie mentioned. We are now getting into the business end of this session as we try to claim our first pole sitter of the season. Rishan Jacobs making his way through. The driver, who is the lowest returning driver of the season, finished 22nd in the standings last year, with a lot to do this season, I think it is fair to say, for Jacobs. How do you fancy his chances coming into this season?
I mean, he did good in the pre-season race, and I think that shows he's got that pace there. But of course, he's got to do it in the main season. There's no point doing it in the practice lobby if you can't do it in the main one. Goes up into P6. And I feel like Rishan's got the pace, but there's a little bit of unluckiness. I think there's a lack of awareness and racecraft as well in some occasions, which has led to penalties where he's been easily in the points. But of course, a penalty in this grid drops you all the way outside. So I think there's a couple of little issues that Rishan has to iron out. But I think on raw pace, he's got it. So hopefully this season he can kind of work his way back up into more of the mid-pack F2, maybe a little bit high, because I think for the past 3 seasons, he's always been down near the bottom and just trying to claw for points wherever he can. But, you know, hopefully this game could be his one, as we do see here Luca Rapassa in the V-Carb P8 at the moment. Normally expect to see him a tad higher, and that just shows how good he is, because for most drivers, P8's good, but for Luca, he should be up in that top 5 minimum, in my opinion, with the pace and the skill that he's got. He's currently 3 seconds down, so I presume he'll be heading either back into the pits or looking to go again. But, I mean, look at the times there only. 1/10 separating P1 and P6, 2/10 separating P1 and P12.
Yeah, absolutely. And we still award the bonus point for the pole position at the end of the session. No more fastest lap point coming into this season. That is one of the things that were mentioned as well. So we are going to be awarding an extra point for the driver who sets the fastest lap come our 36 lap race later on. But still, if you are able to get to the fastest time by the end of the session, it will be the pole position point and an early advantage in this season as well by a single point, but every single advantage heading into the race can be quite helpful. And when you add up all of those pole position points, it can make a difference by the time we get up to the championship finale as well, by the time we get to the season finale. So the point for pole position, very critical, and if a driver can excel, and I remember this with Gabriel Quintino, who's our reserve for this season as well, in the F3 campaign, which I covered a few seasons ago for him, what he was able to do was rack up quite a few of those pole position points. If a driver goes specifically well when it comes to qualifying, it can be really helpful to try get themselves up the standings, and then if they can just maintain their consistency in the race, could lead them to the title and the biggest trophy of the season.
It certainly could do, and Jan Hardy is feeling confident about this session, being as he's just decided to bail in and go again at the end of this qualifying. Of course, was on a lap. I think that was fine to put him up into possibly the top 10, but decided to bail. Wants to have the best track conditions. So we'll go again very, very shortly. We have many more drivers heading out onto circuit. The first one being one of the V-Cubs. I think it is Luca Rapace. We've got Cameron Dowds, who's yet to set a lap, along with Larry Tulkey. Very surprising to see those two with their lap times on the board. But then again, mistakes happen, and this puts them under so much pressure because they've got to get a time on the board. Those who are up in the top 10, they've got a decent lap time. They're probably not going to fall that, far down. Whereas Larry and Cameron, they need something on the board to not start dead last. And of course, on a grid like this, around a track like this, it's so difficult to be making moves. So they can't afford to be starting P19 and 20 here in the race. So they've got to get something on the board. But here is Luca Rapace in the V-Carb, a driver I expect to see near the front. Let's see what he can do. As a quick message from Mirko saying, is Pasquale Italian? He certainly is, yes. So a fellow compatriot of yours. A shame not to see you driving here, Mirko. Would have been nice to have you back on the grid.
It definitely would have, and it would have been interesting to see how he would get on up against all of these drivers. Rapace up by 0.02 of a second, which sector 1 is mostly just a run through Niki Lauda curve as well, and then the run you get into the corner and out of the corner, that's the deciding factor. Other than that, it's 2 straights, but you get then into this third sector where you're having to do the hard work through turn 4. And then we head down into turn number 6 on this circuit. And then 7 and 8 will follow a critical part to try gain time to extend those thousandths. And he has done so because he's now 97 thousandths of a second up, as he will bring it to the end of the lap. 1 minute to go in this session. This is the moment where the drivers have to try and step forward and produce the lap time under pressure. And he spun and he will make his way into that pit lane, pushing on hard, and round goes the car.
A big shame there for Luca Rapace. Will be starting 8th minimum. That was Cameron Dowds. First lap of the session and last lap of the session. Jumps up into P5 in the kick sober. Here we have Angelo D'Ortenzio in P8 at the moment here in the Mercedes. Should be up and around that top 5 as well. A very quick driver in qualifying, as much as he is in the race. So let's see what he can do. Heading through in towards that middle sector. What's it going to be? It's going to be down, so he won't be finding an improvement here, Omi. So he's going to have to settle with 8th at minimum.
That is disappointment for the Italian driver. You've got an Italian squad down at Mercedes this season. And Angelo D'Ortenzio, well, he is at risk of dropping positions behind unless he can get on with it and get onto a run, which he is coming across the line, and he's just done it, actually. The checkered flag comes out. We aren't seeing a checkered flag next to his name, so he is pushing on. Sergio Sabrino has invalidated the lap time. So when it matters, we are seeing the mistakes come in for Sabrino, for Benzoni. They are the drivers in 2nd and 3rd. Lukumski's already set his benchmark, and he sends it over to the rest of the field to try and beat, and one of those drivers is Hitala, who is improving when it comes to our 2nd sector. He's up by 1/10 of a second, and that is exactly the margin that he'll be hoping for. If he can maintain it, it will lead him to a pole position to start the season. We're through turn number 9, through the Red Bull Mobile at turn number 10. Tony Hitala coming across the line. Can he find the time? Yes, he can, to take the 1 point for pole position. At the moment, it is Hitala at the front. Let's see what Nelson Alves can do. He's down by 4 thousandths by the time he left the 2nd sector.
Oh, he goes up to P9, still into that top 10 behind his teammate. And there's still a couple drivers at the back of the field looking to make improvements. And I think Gabel Chontos, I don't think he's got a chance of taking it away. No, he's gone wide, but he was already down on his lap time. Pascal Ranielli is also going to be with an invalidation. So I think the only driver left is going to be Conrad Bohm, who is down by 11 seconds in that middle sector. So it's going to be Tony Hietala on pole position here for the first round of season 40. Of course, scored, I think, one set of points last season in F2, and now is going to be starting on pole position, that top spot, heading into the Austrian Grand Prix, ahead of Lekomsky in second place. And I did say earlier on to keep an eye on him because he will be at the top of qualifying, but the gaps here, Omi, are absolutely minuscule.
Absolutely. 800 separating our top four. That is Hitala Lukumski, Sabrino Benzoni. You get to Dowd, Steven Stouchelek, and then Rishan Jacobs Alves. And then we have Angela Diotensia Ripassa. And then we have Sabaconi, Halliday Ranielli. And then you get Gabel Kosontos. And then Laurie Tulki, Reza MTS, Conrad Bohm, Diego Zorzo, and Leo Lund. 7/10, just under that, separating our field. Absolutely extraordinary margins, and that's exactly what we want to see. Qualifyings are always the amazing part when it comes to PSGL. It's always interesting to see, over one lap, how the drivers get out on the circuit. But we've done our qualifying, we've set our grid, and now all of the attention turns to the race that is coming up, our season opener, our first on the F125 game.
Certainly, and I believe we don't have restarts this season, which makes it a lot easier. It means we can get straight into the action, and we haven't got to wait around and think of things to talk about for the next 10 minutes. We can see, waiting for players, we're ready to go here for the first round of Season 40. Before we go in quickly, Omi, let's know any predictions from yourself of what to see.
Oh, I think the easy prediction is that you're going to get quite a lot of chaos and some amazing racing. I think it is fair to say. But if anyone has some more specific predictions, let us know in the live chat, or any other thoughts that you may have ahead of our season getting underway. We are looking down in the pit lane. To the right-hand side of screen, you can see the cars lined up, and they are about to burst into action in a few moments. They'll be getting underway towards Niki Lauda Curve in a few moments' time, and our new season will be underway. They are currently deciding their strategies. They are finalizing their setups as well, making sure they're all loaded. That will be done for qualifying. They'll be inside the setups. It will be the field that they'll be managing at the moment. So that's exactly what they're going to be doing as they wait for the 5 lights.
Indeed, and I believe it'll just be hard medium here. I believe in F3 and F5 a lot of drivers started on the hard tyres, so I presume that the hard medium is the way to go, but not long until we can see those the 5 red lights, not the checkered flag. We're not quite there yet. Here we go, Omi.
Yep, here we go. A brand new season, a brand new era of PSGL is underway, and it's a good launch off the line for Tony Hietala. He's going to get the start to maintain the lead into turn 1. Lukumski is in second place. Then it's Sabrino in P3. Dowds fancied a chance up against Benzoni, but he's still in fifth. Make that 6th now. Dowds drops down. It is Hietala at the front of the field. The battle that we will be looking for will be further back because Dowds is going to be in there. That's tight. To the inside line goes Sabrino. He's nearly making contact with Lukumski, who is standing on the power. We're 3 wide further back. That is our reigning champion of Jan Halliday getting in the mix up against Imtiaz as he was trying to find a way through, but it is Hietala, then Lukumski and Sabrino, our top 3.
Indeed, and we can see lots of drivers further back getting into a bit of a tussle. That's Nelson Alves and Luca Rapassa getting side by side through towards turn number 6, and we do see Piotr Stakelek there having a battle with Rishan Jacobs and that will be the Alpine up into P7 here at the start of this race as they all head their way through in towards the last couple of corners on lap 1. As here is Riccardo Benzoni, of course, sitting ahead of Liam Stevens. Of course, Liam, part of the Aston Martin team now, will be looking to try and prove that he deserves that spot and will be pushing forward here this season. Rapassa closing in on Nelson Alves. You can see already 50% of his battery is used on that first lap, was charging forward and looking to make overtakes. Unfortunately, has only dropped back and now sits outside of that top 10. But of course, we will see drivers looking to make those early moves. Turn 3 is a hot spot for making overtakes. Gabel Chontos looking to get ahead of Luca Rapassa in the Haas car, looking to get ahead of the RB, and does so, and that explains why. Luca is on the hards. Everybody else is on the mediums, of course, bar Luca and Szymon Lekomsky. And if this hard medium is the way to go, Lekomsky is in such a perfect spot. There's a bit of contact there between Luca and Nelson.
Yep, the battling is continuing on. Luca Rapassa trying to send it and trying to make the move. Is he going to be able to get there? And that's going to be contact between himself and Trontos as well, who was trying to keep his foot in at the moment. You've got Turkey improving to 17th position. Then you've got Ranieri, and you've got Reis Imtiaz, an F3 champion from the past, and he's trying to fight away by, and he will do so, and he will squeeze his rival right over to the white line as we complete another lap. So DRS immediately open. That opens on lap number 2, so they've already had that running. They're all in a DRS train, so they've got to strategically use their battery, Richie, as they try to make some overtakes. And if you are further back, you need to try recover in this early stage.
You certainly have. I mean, on this game, it's very easy to bring back your ERS, same as last game. As we do see there, Cameron Downs and Liam Stevens having a battle out to turn 3. Cameron was up the inside, but a better exit from Stevens. He'll keep that P5 spot for now. Does Downs look for the overtake? No. He plays it safe and sits behind Liam Stevens for now, but has got a decent run out of turn number 4. I think was then looking for a bit of a dart to the inside, but in the end just backed out. Was just trying to scare away Liam Stevens. But as I was saying, on this game, the ERS, just like 24, so easy to build it back up. It means you can burn it one lap, but then over the next lap, you can save it all back up to 100% and then go again for the next lap. So you've just got to make sure that you kind of, if you're saving your ERS, make sure the car behind you isn't burning it. Otherwise, that is not going to end too well. And that's when you get to a point where you end up with that battery deficit because you're constantly trying to burn stuff you haven't got. So it's all about strategy. Even though you can bring it back so quickly, you've got to do it at the right time. As here is Angelo D'Ortenzio on the back of Rishon Jacobs, looking to make moves in the Mercedes against the Williams up to turn 3.
Can he do it? He forces Jacobs to park it in the middle of the road, and then he tries to get the better traction of the corner. And can he use a bit of the battery to get by into turn number 4? That'll be his goal, but at the moment not closing in enough. Once again, Jacobs placing the car in the middle to make sure that there is no attack that comes in, no clear attack as well at the moment from Angelo D'Ortenzio, who's the driver running in 9th position. But Lukumski doing well at the moment on those hard compound of tyres to maintain the gap, and of course the DRS keeping him in play, and that is the critical thing at the moment. But D'Ortenzio really following closely through this first, second, and then into this third sector at the moment as well. So it's interesting to see what he is getting on. Diego Zorzo is the driver running in 20th place in the Red Bull. He was, of course, he's a returning driver, and he finished 5th last season, did Zorzo, and that was quite impressive from him. Of course, those are the drivers who made their debut in PCF2 last season and now getting a second season as well to try and improve their positions. But when you've got such talented drivers, it isn't an easy task.
No, it certainly isn't. And one thing as well to notice, and people might be asking, how can we see drivers moving out of the slipstream? Of course, that's not going to bring you any closer. It only keep you at that gap. But on this game, obviously in that slipstream with the dirty air, you will get obviously engine temps getting higher and higher and higher. Once you reach, I think it's about 133 degrees is what I got told, you are got to start to have an engine power deficit. You'll start to lose power in the engine. So that's why the drivers are moving out the slipstream so often, because they want to keep those engine temps down and not be overheating. Of course, I don't think it leads to any sort of like engine malfunctions or anything in this game, but you don't want to be losing power, that's safe to say, especially around a track like this where it's constant momentum that you need to keep pumping in. So, yes, don't be surprised if you see cars moving out of the slipstream, because, of course, on last game it doesn't matter, but this game it really, really does. And let's have a look here what happens up towards turn 3. You can see Shimon immediately pulling out of that slipstream behind Tony Hietala and closes in every time in towards that braking zone, and he knows that he's got the pace to make the move, but for now, we'd rather have that extra DRS.
Yeah, he absolutely would indeed. And he is right now just maintaining things at the moment. That is exactly what the 20 drivers in the field are doing. Of course, as they think about the long game at the moment. So they are just navigating their way through this early phase of the race. You are going to see, as we've already seen, further back, some drivers try and improve and gain some positions. But if you are at the front, all of those drivers know that they're going to have time and they are going to have opportunities to attack later on. And once the pit stops get done, that is when the race can really start to come alive, and we can immediately see some drivers darting all over the place, and the reason why is they're coming into the pit lane, of course, taking that inside line to try get into the pit lane, and it's Imtiaz who comes in along with Katrontis, and he's not the only one. You've also got Tulki in, also another, he's also part of Haas, so you've got the teammates in, and then you've also got Pasquale Granielli in.
Well, now I'm seeing them pick this early, I'm actually starting to think that there's a 2-stop here, because if you're going, what, 29 laps on a set of hards, they're not going to get to the end. So it seems we have got a 2-stop here, because you're not going to do 29 laps on the hards here, I'm pretty sure. So it seems if, 2-stops could be on the cards for some of these drivers here, which is interesting, which is safe to say. Otherwise, the Taiwan must just be fine here, and you can afford to go for that undercut. I'm not quite sure, but if anybody in the chat knows if it's a 1-stop or 2-stop, let me know.
Yeah, interesting development as well, and yeah, possibly 2 stops coming into play. It does look like that is going to be the case as drivers, as more of them peel into the pit lane. So that'll be interesting. And that's the great thing about this game. We're getting that strategy come into play as Rishan Jacobs gets as close as possible to damaging his front wing as he gets right onto the back of Piotr Starchilek.
Well, we have been told that he's medium, hard. So I presume for the likes of Luca and Simon, it should be a hard, medium, possibly, or hard, medium, I'm not sure how they are going to plan that one out, but that certainly makes it interesting for strategies. Reis Imtiaz, who pitted at the last lap, was one of the first to pit. He's now technically net P2 here in this race behind his teammates, Cameron Dowds. Piotr Stachelek behind as well, looking to make moves. A warm Cameron there under pressure from the other Kick Sauber. Race there broke a bit too late into turn 3. Bit of contact between the two as we head down to turn 4. The Alpine on the outside here of the Kick Sauber. And further back we have Richard Jacobs and Gabor Chontos getting close to contact. Gabor running all the way to the edge of the track limit. And here we have Piotr Stachelek looking to go to the inside of Reis Imtiaz. Does go to the inside and does make that overtake, because we do see here Tala, Benzoni and Alves all head into the pit lane.
We mentioned the race would come alive after the pit stop phase. It absolutely is. We got the pit stop phase earlier than we expected. We've got most of the field going for that 2-stop strategy. We've got more drivers who are following suit. That is Hitala, Benzoni and Alves. But a great position right now. Cameron Dowds finds himself in, along with Stachulek, who've made their way to. Then you've got Imtiaz. We were just watching that battle a few moments ago. Here is Hitala rejoining the circuit, and he is ahead of them all. But Dowds has got those tyres warmed up, and he will be getting closer and closer. Let's see who's darting out of the slipstream to try and make some moves. They're single file at the moment as they navigate their way to Remus. So critical stuff. Hitala rejoins ahead, and he's got a 7/10 gap. That'll be closed in due to the DRS, but he was able to exit just ahead due to the advantage he had at the front of the field. So now our next order sees Hitala, Dowds, and then Stachulek, Benzoni, and Imtiaz.
It certainly does, and of course Lukomsky at the front is probably just going to go really long here, I'd expect anyway, on these hard tyres, as we do see Sergio Sobrino heading into the pit lane. And tyre-wise, it'd be great to get the tyres back on so we can see who's on what, because I'd love to remember, but I certainly can't. But yes, I believe it would have been Lukomsky on the hards along with Rapassa, Stevens, Halliday, Lund, Shabakonyi and Conrad Bohm, all on a set of the medium tyres, still continuing on their first stint, as here it is Luca Rapassa on the back of Liam Stevens. These two will just be trading that DRS. You know, if Rapassa's close enough, Liam won't even fight it. Through goes Rapassa, and then of course next lap the same will happen again. They just need to pull that gap closer to Szymon Lukomsky, who's starting to pull away a little bit more in that McLaren. And then of course you can see further back the likes of Tony and Cameron, Piotr all following through on each other down towards turn 4. Further back though, that's a move. Nelson Alves on the back of Gabor Chontos looking to go ahead and taps the Mercedes into the braking zone of Angelo D'Ortenzio. Somehow doesn't send the Mercedes spinning round and somehow doesn't get damage on that front wing. They all make it through, but that was certainly a close call.
Yep, absolutely, and it will continue to get really tight as Alves looks up the inside. He's wheel banging up against Angelo Di Ortensio. The two of them making their way towards turn 9. Who gives an inch? Sending it into the corner, and it's Di Ortensio who leaves ahead, but we're battling into turn 10, and Alves has to get out of it. This one is getting quite feisty out on the circuit. Our first proper feisty battle, where it has really looked like they were going to make contact a couple of times. They made it work, they somehow got through, and they will continue their battle. But that really got tight, especially down towards turn 9 and 10.
It certainly did. I think Angelo turned in a tad early on Alves, but then again, I don't think Alves should have really had his wheel up the inside at the final corner. So, yeah, probably a racing incident, but yes, a little bit aggressive between those two. As here we do see Liam Stevens on the back of Luca Rapassa still, of course, on those medium tyres. And out of those that have stayed out on the mediums, he's 3 seconds ahead at least of all of the others. So if this medium hard is the way to go, or just medium hard for Liam Stevens, he's on the better strategy of those behind him because he's got such a nice gap. And of course they haven't really lost time to Lekomsky, but they're certainly not gaining it. So I suppose it's at least a consistent gap for Luca and Liam to Shimon. And then of course further down, it's not been the best race for Pasquale Ranieri. He's down in 20th, 4 seconds off the back of Diego Zorzo, who is also 3 seconds off that main train. So not sure what's happened to Ranieri, but obviously something must have happened earlier on in the race to put him in such a harmful situation. He's 6 seconds off of, well, probably more than that, off of Tony Hirtala. As here is Sabrino on the back of Jacobs into turn 3. And of course, Sabrino was very quick in qualifying and looking to make some early moves.
He is indeed, and he's got turn number 4 coming up. So Sabrino at an interesting phase of the race, forcing a defensive shape from the Williams, making a little bit of contact with the front tyre of the Ferrari up against that Williams car, and you can see that Jacobs is all out of shape. We're heading towards turn 6. Does he dive to the inside? Puts a nose in there. It's wheel to wheel between these two drivers. Out wide goes Jacobs, and to the position of P12 goes Sergio Sabrino, so he's able to move up and get by, and with the speed that he had behind, it looked like he was going to be able to fight a way through. He had to be a little bit brave at turn 6, but once he got his nose in, he was able to control that one and is able to take the position at the moment. As we cut back over to Alves, who's got Reyes Imtiaz directly ahead, and he is in the Kick Sauber car at the moment. Angelo Di Ortensio running in 14. These drivers, of course, still to benefit from the pit stops that will happen ahead, but you've got different strategies in play. You've got some drivers extending it, and the ones, of course, who are possibly going for that one-stop strategy, as that is late on the brakes from Jacobs, who is trying to immediately come back on Sergio Sabrino.
Indeed, and they're close to losing that DRS from the cars ahead, and well, that move cost them time, but luckily didn't cost them that DRS, as Sabrino still sits comfortably ahead in 12th and, well, on the cusp of nearly being broken out of that DRS, so going to have to close it nice and quickly.
Dowds has improved. Cameron Dowds has got past Tony Hirtala, so that was a move into turn 4 that took place. So that is a change of net leadership at the moment. So it's Dowds, then it's Hirtala, and then you get Stauchulek running in 10th place at the moment. As we see Sabaconi come into the pit lane as well, and he will drop behind. Everyone else will move up a position. Cameron Dowds setting the fastest lap, so a lot of momentum on that last lap to be able to make the move and also get the fastest lap as well. So he was able to push on, and that was the point where he decided to make the move. And we're now at a critical phase of the race where you have Conrad Bohm, who is still yet to make a pit stop. He's going to be a hurdle as everyone else tries to overtake him. Dowds has got through. Hirtala will follow by as well, and then it will now be a case of everyone having to try and get through him in the best possible way. But if you do get stuck in the second sector, it can lose you time, and it can critically lose you the 1 second to the car ahead.
It certainly can, and I'm starting to think here this one stop probably isn't the way to go, because Conrad Bohm is really struggling here. Look at that, Piot all over the back of him as they head into turn 6, and it should be an easy move around the outside there for the Alpine. Does so up into P8 for Piot, and then Riccardo Benzoni can have his turn of looking to get ahead of Conrad Bohm as Szymon Lekomsky calls it quits on those hard tyres, and will be, I presume, heading onto a set of the mediums, or could be going hard medium. We'll have to see as we do get there. Conrad Bohm going into the pit, so let's see what tyres he goes on to as he brakes nice and late, gets into the pit lane nice and quickly, and now can look to go again. And here we can see Jan Halliday and Leo Lund are now going to fall behind Cameron Dowds, because Cameron's caught up to them and he's absolutely flying on those hard tyres. So give it till the end of the lap. He should be looking to get ahead.
So, Stauchalik and Benzoni separated by 1.1 seconds. So that was broken in that time they were trying to get past Conrad Bone. They've been able to get back in it, but those are the type of things that we will see, which we were just mentioning before it happened. And we could see it once again, because as we mentioned, we're catching up. We're on board with Cameron Downs. We're getting closer and closer to the Red Bull and the Aston Martin that are ahead, who will be running at a much more slower pace at the moment. And those two have the 1 second on each other. So Lund in 1 second of Halliday, meaning the DRS will be there, meaning it's a little bit more trickier and you have to use a bit of the battery, unless we see into the pit lane in a few moments time. Look, Dowds is going to get held up. Lund will come into the pit lane momentarily, and there we go. So we get Lund coming in. Dowds will continue on once again. His momentum was broken due to the way the line works through turn 9 in terms of the pit entry, but he's able to make his way through. So that's that hurdle gone, which I was just describing to you. But now they still will have Halliday to pass unless he comes into the pit lane, but they will surely catch him by the end of the lap.
Yeah, they should do, and I believe Jan will come in next lap, as here we can see a move there by Tony, looking to get ahead of Cameron Dowds as they head into turn 3. They will emerge side by side here down to turn 4. Let's see, can Tony get ahead? You can see burning the battery, looking to pull alongside the Kick Sober. Who's going to break later? It will be Cameron Dowds on the outside. That's still going to be side by side between the Kick and the V car in towards turn 6. Tony's going to have an outside line. It's going to drag him out wide. Cameron keeps ahead in P2 and now can close in on Jan Harday. I presume Jan will probably head into the pits this lap around. Has got to be careful because there's many cars behind who aren't going to be pitting, and let's hope no one runs into contact as we head our way through in towards the final corner. To begin the next lap, as Piotr Stakelek is in, but has already made a pit stop.
Okay, interesting stuff. So he's already gone in, has Stauchalik. So that'll be interesting to see what he does. Lukumski says the fastest lap of the race. Hitala's very close to Cameron Dowds. The two who were having a battle on the last lap at this part of the circuit could be about to do the exact same once again. But the DRS was shut early. Hitala does not want to now overtake. They were dealing with the traffic last time, so it could have been a different intention that time round. Now it's back to normal. Now it's Dowds in P1, as we now finally do get the moment where Stauchalik rejoins and he goes onto the hard compound of tyres.
Indeed he does, and we do see there Liam Stevens already making moves ahead of Diego Zorzo. There's an 8-lap tyre difference there between between Liam Stevens and Diego Zorzo, but then compared to the rest of the field, there's still such a big tyre disparity. So Luca, Liam and Shimon will push forward nice and quickly and really start to catch up to those near the top end of the field. Lukomski there up into P7 ahead of Nelson Alves. Around the outside in towards turn 9, Nelson is going into the pits, so he's looking to bail now. Race Imtiaz takes a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings, the first one of the race, and around a track like this, with the gaps being so small, that is not ideal for Race Imtiaz, as we do see Luca Rapasa taking that fastest lap, of course, on those brand spanking new hard tyres. As up to turn 3 we go. Any moves being made this time around? No one makes a move. They all sit behind each other, following up towards turn 3, and then of course status quo down towards turn number 4. But I've noticed as well there, Race Imtiaz has also lost DRS on me, so I'm not sure if that mistake he made was due to running really wide and not just a normal track limit violation.
Yeah, may have been just more than a little bit of centimeters than what we usually see. So disappointment for Imtiaz, and as you mentioned, that is costly in case of course, just the usual finish that we get everyone bunched up, but also in case we do get a safety car where we get absolutely everyone in the mix as well in the final stages. We have seen it multiple times where we have had late safety car, everyone bolts on the soft compound of tyres and it's a sprint to the end. Those are the circumstances which a penalty will really cost you, but anyway, even if we continue green, it will be so costly for him just due to how we get the trains around this circuit in specific, as we have Cassandras getting a 10-second time penalty or speeding in the pit lane as well, as he momentarily came in. And we now make our way down towards Remus corner, turn number 3, and Lukumski was getting close. He was getting close. He's getting by on the brakes of Angelo Diotensio. He's not the only one though, because this is for the lead, and you've got DRS for the Racing Bulls driver and Tony Hitala powering by, and he will lead us down into turn 4 as Lukumski did move up to P6.
He certainly did, and then we did see as well Ben Shobakonyi looking to get ahead of Larry Tolkien, does so in that Alpine up into P12 here in this race, and of course with that 10-second for Gamble Chantos, that is pretty much a race ender. That 10-second is, because there's no way on earth are you going to finish in any sort of points, or even higher than 19th with that penalty. Big shame there for Gabor. A small mistake made with such heavy consequences, as here we have cars heading into the pits again. Here Talat, Dowds, we have Jacobs, D'Ortenzio, all heading in on lap 20 of 36, going on to another set of the hard compound of tyre. So that makes me think surely Lekomski's got to be going for that two-stop as well, because he pitted, what, 4 laps ago? He's not going to do 20 laps on tyres that nobody else did more than 15 on. So interesting times here strategy-wise, but we do have Dowds and Hirtala exiting pretty much inside of each other. These two can't get away from a battle. Out of the pit lane they go, up towards turn 3, and there's still only a couple of tenths separating the two drivers. As here we do see Jan Halliday under pressure here from Piotr Stakelek as they head out of turn 3 and back down to turn 4. That should be easy pickings for the Alpine up the inside.
It should be, and it is. The improvement of position for Stauchelek, who moves up. Jan Halliday drops down, not reaching the heights that we saw from him last season, but it's only the opening round. We still have a long journey to go, but it's important that your run of consistent results starts nice and early in this 12 race season, which we were talking you through earlier on. Benzoni comes into the pit lane. Sabrina, of course, has to go round again, with it being his teammate who came in. Lukumski also, of course, pit much later, and we are still expecting him to be doing that two-stop strategy with how the running is going. There's been so many question marks, and this is a great thing, Richie, as well. We've got so many different strategies where we go into it with a set mind in terms of what we think the drivers will do, and then it changes in the race, it changes again, and then we end up with something that we didn't expect.
And it's what we love to see. I mean, you know, the normal Formula 1 kind of fell out of that when they started doing the same strategies like what we had on F122. Everybody pitting within a couple of laps. But now, on this game, with this two-stop, we actually have so many different strategies going on, because with the two-stop being a thing, that means there's so many different viable strategies, and it's great to see drivers exploring what different strategies they could utilise. And of course, in the end, it could just be the bog standard strategy wins, but also there's always those possibilities that a driver that goes for something a bit different and outlandish also comes out on top. So if we do see someone who went for something different win, that's even better. It's great to see. But of course, the likes of Luca, Liam and Shimon pitted later, and they are now sitting in the top 3. I presume they'll have to pit again, but their hopes are that they'll have a decent gap when they come out the pit, that they can just push and make moves, unless they're planning on going to the end. So we'll have to see what happens for those guys. As there we do see, of course, Spencer Bakonyi in P4, a couple of seconds back is Leo Lund and Piotr Stakelek with Jan Halliday. Following on behind as Ray Simtias has came into the pits, he's down to P17. Not the race that Race would have been hoping for, unfortunately, as he's Nelson Alves also looking just to defend off from Tony Hirtala, who of course was on pole position. Would be loving to get a win and would be disappointed if he got anything less.
Yeah, we have so many different expectations for the drivers coming into play, as D'Ortenzio fights his way up to 13th position. That's further back as well, and he moves up. But yeah, exactly. So many different drivers with plenty of expectations coming into this round, and they hope to try live up to them, and it can be quite disappointing if it's not going your way. But there will be multiple occasions across our season where that could possibly be the case, just because other drivers come up with a better setup and just have it dialed in and have a bit more prep as well heading into. That's a critical part as well, and we discussed about how the drivers are enjoying this game a lot more, which means we are going to be seeing a lot more doing prep than they would have in F1 24 as well. And we're in this early phase of the game cycle, which means we're getting completely different style of approaches as well compared to an end where we look forward to a new game. Just moving up there was Stevens, and he gets past Rapasa. That was the overtake we just saw on screen.
Indeed, as here, of course, is Stevens and Rapasa, P2 and P3 at the moment, as we do see further back there, Sabrina looking to make moves on Gabor Chantos, but of course it doesn't really matter if he gets ahead or doesn't because of the 10-second time penalty for Chantos for speeding in the pit lane. I think it's a bit harsh of a penalty, especially here in esports at least, where you go over the speed limit by 1 kilometre an hour and you get a 10-second penalty. Pretty much eliminates you from anything in a race, so Big shame for Gabor, but of course, if a safety car comes out, he can pit, serve the penalty, and come back out again, you know, at the back of the pack. So there's a chance that he could be, you know, he could have something here in this race, but very, very unlikely. Is here is Halliday once again on the back of Leo Lund, and Piot has also catched up to the back of Ben Shabakonyi. So at least they all have, well, at least Piot has a bit more DRS now, a bit of an advantage over Leo, and can keep him behind for a few more laps. As we do see further back, Riccardo Benzoni looking to get ahead of Richard Jacobs, and does so. They're side by side down towards turn number 4. Ferrari versus Williams. Let's see who will come out ahead as they head into the braking zone. Bit of contact between the two. Lock up for Benzoni. Wide for Jacobs, and back through goes Riccardo Benzoni. A nice little battle there between those two cars, and now Angelo D'Ortenzio will enter the scene.
You get plenty of simple overtakes at times. That was definitely not one of them. Quite a lot going on into the braking zone, and multiple moments where you didn't know who was going to come out on top. But yeah, you were mentioning in terms of the 10-second penalty, quite harsh. And yeah, absolutely. We've of course had for this season a restructure of the penalty system in terms of what the stewards do. And 1-second penalties have been introduced, which is exactly what you would have seen in the Sim Racing Championship a few months ago as well, while that was running. And when the gaps are so close, a 5-second is quite punishing, like we would usually see in real life. And it is punishing compared to real life a lot more. So a 1 second means that the drivers won't just completely drop outside the points, they'll lose a couple of positions as well. So yeah, an interesting change, and a good change as well to make sure the drivers aren't being harshly punished on every single occasion.
Certainly, but also I think that can add into effect that drivers can get away with things a bit more. Of course, before, if you did something you shouldn't have done, you get a 3 seconds, you're pretty much at the points, or at least you're at the bottom. But now 1 second, in some cases, might lose you 1, 2 spots at max. So that does mean drivers can be a bit more aggressive, which we love to see. But sometimes they always go a little bit over the top, don't they? They enjoy, you know, pushing wide, sending people off the track. I think, well, it'd happen anyway because some of these drivers don't care. But it means they can get away with it more. So I'm not sure I entirely agree with the 1 second penalties. I think on a basis they're good. But with the driver standards we have, I'm not too sure. But we'll see. It might end up well this season, it might not. We'll have to see by the time we get to the end of round 12. But here is our little battle for P4 and below as the two Alpines swap around. Not a surprise, they're teammates. They're going to be coordinating here. And of course their aim is just to try and not lose much time to Luca, Liam and Shimon, who are starting to actually pull away quite quickly. That gap was only 4.5 around 3 laps ago. It's now over 6 seconds.
Yeah, interesting stuff going on there, and this is exactly what we mentioned with the strategies. There's so much going on across the circuit, where drivers closing in and also losing time depending on the phase of the race that they are currently at as well. And they make their way through this third sector runner. We're taking a look at Stouchelek on the circuit, who was the first one properly to bolt when it came to the second pit stop as well, was Stouchelek as he makes his way through turn number 10. Nelson Alves picking up that 3-second time penalty for track limits at the same time. So quite interesting stuff there for the driver that is running in 9th position. It's exactly where he started the race as well.
It certainly was. Lots of drivers making moves here and lots of them losing them, of course, because of the different strategies that we have. I mean, normally in a race we wouldn't see this many people moving up and down by so many positions. I mean, Leo Lund started last. He's now P6. You know, it's really flew at the field. But of course, tried something different, and at the moment, he's starting to work here. As we are requesting tyres, I mean, I'm requesting them as well because I don't remember what's going on. There we go, we can see so many different tyres going on here. We've got newer mediums, newer hards, older hards. I presume some of them will be looking to pit soon. So most of them that are P8 down will be going to the end. Conrad, however, I think we'll have to go to the end because pitting loses him nothing because he's not in any points anyway. So I presume he'll just go to the end, as we do have. Oh, that's Conrad Bone, who is now last after I said, yeah, there we go. That's commentator curse.
Well done. We're only at the first race of the season, and you've already achieved that. So well done as Lukumski comes in. So one McLaren spinning off, one McLaren into the pit lane at the moment, and that is the medium compound of tyres, as we kind of thought that would be the case once we saw the strategy develop for Lukumski, and he's gone on to those mediums all the way till the end.
Certainly has, and I'm actually starting to think now that Liam and Luca will stay out because there's 8 laps to go. they're going to take these tyres 20 laps with a 6-second gap. So they'll heavily lose time near the end. But for now, they're looking quite content. So I presume those two will just push it to the end here as we do see Riccardo Benzoni making moves, getting ahead of Tony Hirtala, jumping up into P9 in the Ferrari. And he's on the back now with Nelson Alves and will be looking to get past him soon. And oh no, Luca started on hards, but no, Liam started on mediums, so Luca will have to pit again, but Liam should be able to go to the end here. So, interesting.
Yeah, so many different strategies out in play. We've had some great side-by-side action to bring you, and we've had a lot of lots in terms of strategy going on at the same time. A great way to kickstart our season here in PSGL Season 40 on this new game of F1 25, and we're hoping to continue to bring you some great racing across this season. Currently Omi in the commentary box alongside Richie as we take it down to turn number 3 and see the drivers get on the anchors and try and avoid making contact with the driver ahead. A slight misjudgment could ruin your race along with the driver you hit. So it's a big moment in terms of making sure that you slow it down, and it means that it might be a short circuit, but the drivers, it might be a short circuit and probably one of the more easier ones that they have to navigate across the season, but at the same time they have to be on full focus around this place.
Yep, they certainly have to, as we did see, of course, the Komsky coming to the pits last time around. Is on brand new mediums, will be pushing like hell and will be making lots of positions over the next 7 laps in this race, or next 6, as Luca does begin lap 30 of 36. So I'm interested to see where Lekomsky can get that McLaren. Of course, he's got a penalty, so he's going to lose points anyway and positions, but at least we can see what that car can do on pure pace. Of course, Luca has to pit again. Liam doesn't, so it all depends on what Liam wants to do, whether he wants to just stick with Luca and pit, go to the end, or think, right, I can go as a lone soldier on my own all the way to the end of the race and keep Piot behind. But with the gap as it is, 5.7 seconds, there's 1 lap difference in tyre. I personally don't think there's any need for Liam to pit, because I don't know how it works in terms of like puncture ranges here on these tyres. I don't know how, how far a lot gone they are, but even if he's starting to get close to puncture range now, he either loses a win with a puncture or hits and then finishes in the points barely. So why not try something different? Why not go for a different strategy, go in for it all, and you lose either a win or you lose nothing? Oh, was Jacobs? What's happened there? Has he got a puncture, or has he just had a bit of a mistake?
Yeah, absolutely. Will be quite interesting. A bit of a slide there for Jacobs, pushing on hard. So a moment for him. Perfect time to ride on board and go on board, as he was all out of shape at that moment in time. We're on lap number 31 out of 36. The clouds are coming in around this Red Bull Ring circuit, around the Styrian Mountains, and it's Liam Stevens who is taking first place on the road as the rest of the field approaches.
Rain!
Time down towards Remus, and rain.
There's rain here on the circuit. Now, this certainly makes the race interesting. I mean, the question is, will it be enough for intermediates? Because if it is, Liam and Luca are loving this, but if it's not, then Luca's going to struggle, because he's going to have to pit when already everybody's going so slow. So this is going to be an interesting another 5.5 laps. The rain's coming down quite quickly. You can see it starting to head onto the circuit. Of course, Shimon at the moment is in the best spot because he's got newer tyres, he's got the softer compounds, they'll work better in the wet conditions. And the rain is starting to fly down. Are they looking to go straight for intermediates? Because I can see rain on the floor already. Let's see. What does Liam and Luca do? Rishon's been given a 3-second penalty. His race is done and dusted here. Down in 15th. It's got to be Inters, hasn't it, Omi? Look at the rain. It's all over the circuit. It's been raining for about 30 seconds.
Yeah, and they're all diving it in. Well, we had a transformation of the race earlier on. We are going to see another reset as Liam Stevens will make his way out. No more question marks. No more question marks. Lukumski goes round once again, and so does Gabor at the same time. Those two have penalties. But wow, absolutely unbelievable stuff as we all find ourselves rejoining on the circuit. But now we find ourselves with a situation as Imtiaz picks up a 3-second time penalty, with these drivers trying to get those tyres up to grip. There's Reza Imtiaz in the kicks up, but he's still on those slick compound of tyres. Rapassa's going to be going by, and there he is. But what a transformation of the race we have just had. The rain comes in, they go on to the intermediates, and Liam Stevens, well, no question marks about whether he can get it to the end. Now he's on the same strategy as most of the other drivers and will try and sprint home to the win, and Rapassa still finds himself in contention as well.
Indeed, and Conrad Bohm calls it quits in the pit lane. A big shame there for Conrad Bohm, not being his race at all here. As Gabor and Lukomski are fighting for the lead here, along with Liam Stevens, who's caught up immediately on those inter tyres. Gets past one, gets past two. What a move there by Stevens. And that was Chontos making contact with Rapasa. They've got absolutely no grip on these medium and hard tyres. They're going to fall through the field. They've got to pit immediately. Look at Imtiaz. There's no grip at all on those hard competitor tyres. He's going to have to bail immediately into the pit lane, go into inters and go to the end. But either way, he's not going to score points because he's going to lose so much time now because he stayed out that one lap longer. And I mean, I've seen rain hit quickly around, you know, on the F1 24 and 25 games, but I've never seen it hit down this quickly.
Yeah, it's been so quick compared to what we previously had. We still have Gabor going around along with Lukumski. They're both together on the circuit. They're both approaching Remus in a few moments' time. Well, it's turning into an ice rink for these drivers still on the slick compound of tyres because it has completely come down. And you're going to get Stauchulek in a few moments getting past them both as they're going to be going wheel to wheel in a couple of seconds. Stauchulek improves up to the final spot on the roster at the moment. And these two on the slicks will do their own battle and very nearly lose their car as they're drifting our way past with Gabor momentarily as Leoland's getting past the pair as Lukumski goes off.
Oh my goodness, what scenes here as, well, Lukomski's making it into a drift show here instead of a Formula 1 race. Has got Cameron looking to get through up the inside. 1, 2, 3 go ahead of Szymon Lukomski. There'll be another one coming through soon as that's going to be Cameron Dowd past Gabor Chontos as well. And Riccardo Benzoni is looking to get the better of the Kick Sabre and make a move into turn 9 around the outside. Can he make a move? No, he can't. As we did see there, Angelo D'Ortenzio get past the Haas, who still thinks, you know what, let's stay out. Why not? As that's going to be Benjamin Konyi taking the final place in the top 10. Tony Hirtala from pole, P11, a big shame for the Veloci Academy driver. And here's a battle for the lead of the race. Liam Stevens and Luca Rapasa battling for P1 here with 2 laps to go in this race. Of course, Luca has got a bit of slipstream. He's got that battery to use. But the question is, when is he going to go for that lunge and attack for that top spot?
This is so well poised. They're on the intermediates. They are still having to battle away. Well, it has been some day. It was already quite interesting to see how the race played out without the rain, but it has completely changed things at the end. D'Ortenzio is battling up against Halliday. Those two are side by side, and that is for 8th position on the circuit, as we continue to see Gabor dropping down at the moment as well, as Rapasa tries to stay close. We're about to go on to the penultimate lap of the race here at the Red Bull Ring, and it's going to be a deciding one. Does Rapasa try and wait, or does he go for it on this lap as we make our way down into turn number 1? Nicking out a curve. It's going to be very interesting to see what Rapasa does.
It certainly will be. A decent exit there for both of them, and only a little bit of time gains there for Rapasa. But he's still going to be too far back to make a move, so we'll have to stick behind Stevens for now. Stevens has got a decent gap at the moment on those inters. Of course, dirty air exists on this game, so it's not as easy, you know, to close up to someone and make a move. You've got to push so hard and have such an advantage on them in order to be right behind, especially without that DRS, as Gabor Chontos will call it quits in the pit lane. A big shame. But Gabor was looking decent at the start of the race, but of course got that penalty, and then in the end ended up just hovering down on the slicks in the wet conditions. So yes, he's gonna just call it quits and try again next time.
Yeah, it's going to be quite incredible. Stevens sliding all over the place. We're about to tick on to the 36th lap out of 36. We're about to go on to the final tour around the Red Bull Ring, and it is a current circuit which is seeing the gap fluctuate with Stevens and Rapasa. One moment Rapasa's closing in, and then he's struggling to get on the power, and Stevens finds himself with a 6:10 gap by the time that we get down to turn 1. We go through set turn 1, we stand on the power, and it's all about the battery. It's all about keeping it on the road for Stevens and also making sure he's got the best traction possible. Rapasa will need something right at the end, as he will go deep on the brakes into Remus corner. He'll really close in, use that curb, and now it'll be about standing on the power, try and deploy it all that you've got, and he'll bring the car down towards turn 4. Won't be close enough to make a move here. If Stevens can keep it pointing in the right direction and stay on the racing line, this should be his race to win by the time we get down to the checkered flag.
It certainly should be, and I believe Stevens has won here once before in PCF2. We'll be looking to make it a second one, but I won't mention that again in case I'm wrong. So we'll just class him as the race winner for the opener of the season. Both of them just throwing the cars into the corners, trying to catch as much grip as possible on those intermediate tyres. And I mean, what a race we've had here to open up a brand new season on a brand new F1 game into the final corner for the 36th and last time. Your winner in PCF2 for the first round is Liam Stevens, and second place will go to Luca Rapassa, and Piotr Saklek in the Alpine will be taking third spot here this evening. And then of course you see a flurry of cars heading to the line. Leo Lund, Cameron Dowd, our top 5.
Extraordinary stuff. Well, we've missed it here on this Thursday. PSGL PCF2 returns, and it returns in some style. And Liam Stevens starts off his campaign in the best possible way. The driver who finished 10th in the standings last year will be your championship leader heading into round 2. Exactly what the Aston Martin, the British driver, wanted to start season 40, and now it's all about trying to continue off this momentum. But we were discussing about how we could have so many drivers and so many different drivers on the podium, so many different drivers winning. I think the evidence in this round is going to be very unpredictable, and we're going to get more results which come out of nowhere.
Certainly. I mean, what a start to this season here. 3 drivers on the podium. I mean, I expected Luca to be there. Liam, because he didn't really qualify in the top 5, top 10, top 5, I didn't expect to see him anywhere near the podium. Never alone winning. And Piotr Saklek as well, I thought that he'd just be in and around those points. But in the end, we had 2 unexpected podium sitters and an unexpected race winner. What a race that was. And strategy was the key one to the end. Everybody had the pace at one point to be fighting for the win, but it was those who gambled, those who took a different race strategy, are the ones that come out on top. And we can see our podium. I mean, it's Brendan Lee, but it's not quite Brendan Lee, unfortunately. It's going to be Liam Stevens, but maybe he'll end up becoming the new future Brendan Lee. We never know, as we can see very shortly our race results of this race. We have our little accolades, which, yeah, they're cool, I suppose. I mean, I don't know what... Yeah, there we are. I don't understand them. I think they're a bit silly. It's like trying to copy something like Fortnite or Overwatch.
Yeah. The chat can do a better job of describing all of that, all of those accolades. So everyone can put their thoughts on that and what you think about all of these drivers as we classify our final results.
There we go. So, of course, it was Liam Stevens who won. Rapassa, Stachelek, Lund, Dowd, Benzoni, Dortenzio, Halliday, Shabakonyi, and Hietala, our top 10. Then we had the rest. That didn't get any points because it's going to run out of time.
Yeah, brilliant.
And we do have interviews. So we say hello to us again, but we'll be heading over to the interview screen very shortly because we have Liam and Luke. We'll drag them both. Yes, I have permission. I didn't think I did for a second. We'll drag them both. Firstly, we'll speak to Liam Stevens, our race winner. Liam, welcome in. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Hello.
Perfect. So, I mean, brilliant race. Started P6, so a decent qualifying, especially around this circuit. But, I mean, was you ever expecting to be winning, or at least, well, comfortably? Even if you didn't win, you would have still got second rather comfortably.
To be honest, not really. Going into the race, honestly, the aim was just to get a top 5 and just a decent result, but I mean, we played the strategy perfect with the wet weather, and I mean, it worked out well for me and Luca in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great race. I mean, strategy worked perfect. Of course, the rain came up. I presume, was you expecting rain with that strategy?
Yeah. We knew before the race, so yeah.
Okay. So, was it one of those where it was quite unlikely, because so many people went for the bog standard strategy and you two just stuck it out longer? Was that, was it that the fact the rain was going to be unlikely, or was it just not going to be heavy enough for inters and you just gambled, or was it always going to be set in stone to be intermediates for the last 5 or 6 laps?
I mean, to be honest, at first we were going to do the 2-stop like everyone else, but we got undercutted from like Rishan, Camera, and people behind, and then we just said we might as well just go out to the end and hope for the best, because there's no point being behind other people with same tyres, so yeah. And it worked out.
Of course, and I mean, heading into the next couple of rounds, you've got to win. It's got to give you some nice momentum. Surely, you're going to be hoping to go for it again?
I mean, hopefully, I'm not gonna set too many high standards, obviously, but I mean, say if I do the same next week, obviously, I mean, it'd be amazing.
I mean, it's Jeddah. I presume another track where literally anything can happen. Are you
Yeah.
normally decent around there?
It's a decent track for me. It's not my strongest, but I mean, I can do well around there and give it a good go.
Perfect. Well, Liam, thank you for joining us. Great to have you here in the interview room, and hopefully we'll see a little bit more of you as the season goes along. So have a good one, mate. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Nathan. Take care. Bye bye.
And next, we'll speak to Luca Rapassa. Luca, welcome in. Not often that I don't see you here in the interview room, so I presume, was you expecting a podium? I mean, by now, surely you should be.
Well, qualifying was not ideal. I was like on for like top 3, and then I just spun second last corner. GG to Liam, because we worked really well together and made sure we could keep like the top 2. For the race, like since starting P11, I knew I had to try something else. Then we saw the rain, so instantly we decided we're just gonna do hard until the rain. And yeah, it worked. So that was nice.
Definitely. And I mean, of course, there's always that chance that the rain might not appear, or maybe it's not, you know, bad enough to be on inters. Did you have any sort of backup plan just in case that rain didn't arrive?
No. It was just we were just fully confident, because this game, as soon as the rain drops, the tires on the slicks just go to 0 grip instantly.
Yeah.
Especially didn't help because like Sim and Likonski, he was P1. Like me and Liam were trying to catch him, so I pushed like my tires to the absolute limit. I was in like almost puncture territory. So yeah, even less grip when the rain fell.
Of course. And I mean, obviously this race was probably not that telling of true pace. It was more that strategy gamble and it working fine. So do you think that going into Jeddah and Belgium and so on, that you can be comfortably back up into that podium again?
Yeah, I would say so. I think even if with a good qualifying, I would have done the same strat and it would have been good. The next few races are tracks I do quite like. Of course, I had the Ironman on Jeddah, so that's quite nice as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next few races.
Perfect. So thank you, Luca, for joining us. Congratulations on the podium. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.
And finally, our final podium sitter, and I think for the first time in about a year, I've actually had all podium sitters come into the VC. Piotr Sakalek, welcoming. Great to have you with us here on the podium. Heading into the race, of course, you qualified P7. Was there any expectations of a podium?
Not really. After the quali, good evening, by the way. No, I didn't know honestly what to expect. I thought that rain was not gonna come, but it did in the end. But all the strategy and all the decisions, I need to say thank you to my engineers, because I was focused on driving. But quali didn't really go my way, honestly. That's not what I expected. But fortunately, we could gain some places in the race.
Of course. And I mean, of course, yourself and there's a couple others on the grid that have driven in F1 Sim Racing and F1 Esports before. Is there much of a difference between that top grid and then a grid like this in F2?
Not many, I would say. I think that the biggest difference, like not even difference, but it's I would say it's very similar to F1 Sim Racing, just because of the how stacked up the whole grid is, and even though like you can just do a decent lap and still be outside of top 10,
Yeah.
so that was really high, and I'm looking forward to racing the whole season.
Definitely. And Jeddah, next time out, is that a track you're excited for?
Bit mixed feelings on that track. I'm not a big fan, and it's Jeddah, so everything can happen. So I'm keeping my mind open. Let's say that.
Indeed. Well, Piotr, thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you back here once again, and hopefully we'll see you again next time out. Have a good one, mate.
Thank you. See you guys.
Right, there we go, Omi. And like I said, I'm actually proud that we've got all of our podium cities in here for an interview. I mean, I can't remember the last time that happened. So that is a well done to the drivers, if anything. They've been bothered to join the VC.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Great for you to, great for them to all join us and speak to you in that moment. Which, yeah, I can echo those thoughts because I remember when I was here doing the season of F2, we basically didn't really have many people joining, and then I went to do 2 seasons in F3, and then everyone started turning up again. So yeah, it's not always the case that in F2 the drivers turning up. But an interesting point I want to take as well with Stouchulek, mentioning, of course, he's a driver who's been there, who's done it in the sim racing world. The interesting point, of course, being how he's mentioned about how there's not much of a difference. And I think that tells all of us how close these drivers are from this point all the way until the sim racing. And they are so close, meaning that performing in this arena is critical to try and get themselves spots. I remember when I was covering F2 about a year ago at this time, we had so many drivers like Joris Krozen, who went on to, of course, progress. So this season, a very important one to get it right, and this is when they can impress and try get those final spots ahead of the new season.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, these are the next ones to go into esports. I mean, when you look at the F2 from like 3 seasons ago, there's probably about 4 or 5 that are in esports. If not, they are like on the cusp of esports. So we'll see these drivers again making it up to the top in the future. So it's great, it's great to see these drivers that are, so close to that pace. I mean, it just shows how good those are as well at the top, because even though these are insane, posing F1, the laps that some of those guys pull out, I mean, they're just immense. I mean, it's not just the fact it's peak pace, it's the fact that the laps they do, that these F2 drivers do are like on their final laps, they can do at the start of a session with the no grip. Like, they are another level. But these drivers are so close, and give it time. There's at least 4 or 5 on the grid right now, which I think could fit in an F1 race perfectly fine. They wouldn't get many points, but they'd stay in the train. They are definitely worthy of dev seats. I'm not going to mention all the names because I don't want to give them too much confidence and then they flop mid-season. But yeah, great way to start off the season. Really, really good race in Austria. Jeddah, it's an interesting track. It's a little bit like what we had today, just without the rain, because the strategy's there once again. Always interesting.
Yeah, and you also then get the similar story of 3 DRS zones back to back to back. Before we go, we're going to quickly run you through your calendar so you know the rounds that you can expect coming up across PSGL Season 40 as well. We mentioned that we'll be going to Jeddah next time out, and then we head over to Spa for round 3, and then we get a break after 3. Definitely what will be by the end of it exhausting rounds, and then we head over to Imola, Silverstone, Hungary, and then the Bahrain International Circuit before we head into another break of a week, and then we return in Texas, Japan, Vegas, Brazil, and Mexico, a sprint all the way to crown our champion in Season 40. That is the calendar which you can expect, and all of the rounds that will come with it across our season. And if we're going off our opening round, it is going to be some season. And well, Richie, to round off things, it has been absolutely brilliant to have you up here in the commentary box joining me for this opening round of our season. Hopefully we'll have Detlink back with us next time out as well. But Jeddah's going to be an interesting race, and it's been great to have you, of course, the opening round. And I think you got treated to some race.
I certainly did. I mean, obviously Alex is in London today. I think for that like McLaren thing or Williams something, I can't remember. He'll be back streaming once again. Of course, I do want to say a big thank you to Sappy, who steps in to produce, because my PC has went from streaming perfectly fine to dying, so I couldn't stream. Omi can't either, so a big thank you to Sappy in the background for hopping in and producing for us this evening. I won't be back next week. I'm on the other side of the world, so I don't have any physical way of being here. But maybe in the future, maybe this season, I'll jump back in. But it has been a pleasure, Omi, to be alongside you once again for our only 2nd time in PSGL, which is quite weird to say, considering me and you have known each other for about 3 years. So yes, it's been a pleasure. Thank you to Sappy. Thank you to all the viewers once again in the chat. We had over 130 at one point, which is insane. Given that we had such a poor F124, it's great to see the loyalty and that everyone's back for a brand new game, which is a lot better than last. But for now, that's all we have here for PCF2. We'll be back next week for Jeddah, round number 2. Alex will be here alongside Omi. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.